He lay deep inside the dark bushes, bleeding and waiting to die. He didn't make a sound because he knew a painful truth. He was just a stray dog. No owner, no home, and no one to save him. Or so he thought. Welcome back to Honey English Stories. Today, let's practice your English with a deeply touching, true story that will restore your faith in humanity. Please subscribe to learn English with me every day. Now, let's begin. Our story takes place at the bustling entrance of a major bus station. It was a place of endless chaos. Horns honking, people rushing, and engines roaring. But in the middle of this stressful environment, there was a source of pure joy. A small, yellow stray dog with a short, stubby tail. He didn't belong to anyone. He didn't have a fancy collar or a warm bed. He slept under the concrete benches at night. But the local taxi drivers called him Lucky. Lucky believed he had a very important job. Every single morning, precisely at 5 a.m., Lucky would take his position right by the main gate. He would sit perfectly still, watching the street. The moment a familiar yellow taxi turned the corner, Lucky's eyes would light up. He would jump to his feet, and his tail would start wagging so powerfully that his entire body shook. He would let out a few happy barks, as if saying, "Welcome back. You made it through the night shift. Have a safe day today." Driving a taxi is a grueling, exhausting job. Drivers deal with angry passengers, terrible traffic, and financial stress. But seeing Lucky's pure, unconditional happiness became a magical medicine for them. Over time, a beautiful bond formed. The drivers didn't just throw him garbage. They treated him like family. An older driver named Mr. Thomas always bought an extra boiled egg from a street vendor just for Lucky. Another driver, David, would save the best piece of pork from his lunchbox. Lucky had no home, but he had 30 fathers. He was healthy, well-fed, and his little world was perfect. But one rainy Tuesday afternoon, disaster struck. The sky was gray, and the roads were slick with mud. A dark car, driving way past the speed limit, rushed through the station entrance. Lucky was crossing the lane, expecting the car to slow down, just like his driver friends always did. He didn't understand that the world could be cruel. There was a sudden, horrifying screech of tires, followed by a sharp, heartbreaking yelp. The heavy car hit Lucky directly, throwing his small body onto the hard asphalt. The driver didn't even tap the brakes. He stepped on the gas and sped away into the traffic, leaving a broken dog behind. Lucky lay on the wet road, gasping for air. His two hind legs were completely shattered. The pain was agonizing. But instead of crying out for help, a sad instinct took over.
Lucky was a stray. Deep in his mind, he knew that a dog without an owner cannot afford to be weak. He didn't think anyone would save him because medical care costs money, and he didn't belong to anyone. He didn't want to be a trouble to his friends. Using only his two front paws, Lucky slowly, painfully dragged his heavy, bleeding lower body across the wet ground. Every inch caused him unimaginable pain. He dragged himself into a thick, thorny patch of wild bushes near the highway, hiding himself from the world. He curled up in the cold mud, shivering violently as the rain soaked his fur. He closed his eyes and lowered his head, waiting for the darkness to take him. He was prepared to die exactly how he was born, alone. The next morning, the sun came out, but the bus station felt completely empty. Mr. Thomas parked his taxi by the gate, holding a piece of warm chicken in a plastic bag. He waited, but the gate was dead silent. No yellow dog, no wagging tail. "David, have you seen Lucky?" Mr. Thomas asked through his car window. David shook his head, his face turning pale. "No, he wasn't here last night either. I thought he was just hiding from the rain." By Thursday morning, 48 hours had passed. The atmosphere at the station was heavy and depressing. The drivers realized how much they missed that simple morning greeting. Without Lucky, the station lost its heart. "Something is terribly wrong," Mr. Thomas announced over the taxi radio system. "Lucky would never leave us for 2 days. We need to look for him." A group of 5 drivers turned off their taxi meters. In their business, turning off the meter means losing the daily income needed to feed their families. But right now, their little friend was more important than money. They searched under benches, behind trash cans, and along the highway. They called out, "Lucky! Lucky, where are you, boy?" For over an hour, there was only the sound of passing trucks. Finally, Mr. Thomas walked near the thick bushes. He noticed the tall grass was flattened, and there were dark, dried stains on the leaves. Blood. He dropped to his knees, ruined his clean uniform in the mud, and pushed the sharp thorns aside. Deep in the shadows, he saw a wet, muddy pile of fur. "I found him! Oh my God, he's here!" Mr. Thomas screamed, his voice breaking. Lucky was barely breathing. His eyes were dull and glassy. But when he heard Mr. Thomas's voice, his tiny, broken tail gave 2 very weak thuds against the mud. He was saying, "You found me." David gently wrapped his own jacket around Lucky and lifted him into the back seat. They drove to the animal hospital with their hazard lights flashing, ignoring traffic rules. The veterinarian took Lucky into the emergency room. An hour later, the doctor walked out with a serious face. "The dog has severe internal bleeding and his pelvis is crushed," the doctor said. "We can perform a surgery to save his life, but it is highly complicated. It would cost hundreds of dollars. Is he your dog? Who is going to pay for this?" The question hung heavily in the air. Is he your dog? No, none of them owned him. They didn't have legal papers. But Mr. Thomas didn't hesitate for a single second. Mr. Thomas pulled out his old leather wallet. He took out a wrinkled $50 bill. That was his entire profit from working 14 hours the day before. He placed it firmly on the clinic counter. "He doesn't have an owner," Mr. Thomas said, tears streaming down his face. "But he belongs to us. Please save his life. We will find the money." David immediately pulled out $80. Another driver added $40, but they were still short. So David picked up his taxi radio. "Attention all drivers. Lucky was hit by a car. He is in surgery. We need help." What happened next was a miracle of human kindness.
One by one, yellow taxis started pulling up to the animal hospital. Drivers who were in the middle of carrying passengers asked for a 2-minute detour. Hard-working men with calloused hands and tired eyes walked into the lobby. They pulled out whatever they had: $5, $10, a handful of coins. It was a mountain of crumpled cash. It was the money of sweat, back pain, and long hours behind the wheel. They gave it away without a single complaint, all for a stray dog who had nothing to give them but love. The emergency surgery lasted for 4 long, agonizing hours. The hospital hallway was a strange sight. Usually, people wait for family members, but that night, the corridor was packed with over 20 taxi drivers in uniform. Some were praying, some were pacing, and others were quietly staring at the red light of the operating room. At 2:30 a.m., the red light finally turned off. The exhausted surgeon stepped out, removing his mask. He looked at the massive crowd of working-class men waiting in absolute silence. A warm smile spread across the doctor's face. He made it. The surgery was a success. The hallway erupted into tears and cheers. Men who barely knew each other's full names were hugging and crying out of pure relief. A month later, Lucky returned to his post at the bus station entrance. He walked with a slight limp, but his tail was wagging faster than ever. Around his neck was a brand new, bright green collar. The silver tag didn't have one name or one phone number. It simply said, "Property of the taxi family." Lucky was no longer an orphan. He didn't just have one owner, he had an army of them. He was now the most protected and loved dog in the entire city. When he lay in the bushes, he thought he was worthless. But his human family proved him wrong. This beautiful true story teaches us that true kindness doesn't depend on wealth. It depends on how much love you carry in your heart. What do you think of Lucky's journey? Let me know in the comments. Please give this video a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to Hani English Stories for more moving tales. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.